Hey!
Hey everyone, Adam and Sarah here, the Green Executive. Hope
Hello.
you're doing well. Sarah?
Yes.
What are some top things that our followers should do before they start really growing their businesses and building them up?
So we decided to talk about this because last night we were having a conversation about themes that we see in companies lately that, what worked when they were six figures doesn't work when they're seven. So what's happening is these companies are getting to be seven figures and they're trying to get these processes in place and use some of the tools available to them within their softwares, but they're struggling to do that because some settings weren't ever put in place when they were six figures. So that kind of spurred this whole conversation of what some of the stuff that was really important or is really important for a smaller company to do, but they don't necessarily realize it yet. And I think one of the number one things is taking the time to get your setup right. Whether it's in QuickBooks, an industry specific software like LMN, take the time to get that set up right. Because 99% of the time when there's a frustration with a software, it's because of the setup, because the setup wasn't right. So an example of that is terms. So if you accept payment, if it's due on receipt, or if people are supposed to pay their invoices within 10 days, 15 days, 30 days, there's settings in your software, if you're using one, to designate those terms. And the terms, they can be used to your advantage.
And the terms is like letting the customer know when the invoice is due.
And at the same time, as soon as it's due, the next day it's going to be past due. So that helps you know when something's truly past due and trust your accounts receivable report to know when something's past payment is due time. So those settings are super important. And I think when you're just getting started, and maybe sometimes we don't even realize we have a business until we happen to have one, a full-fledged business. You're doing this on the side and it really just grows. And the next thing you know is, hey, I've got some business to attend to.
Right. Other things like just simple processes and procedures. Last night, we had a webinar with Wayne and Ross. We were talking about credit card processing fees. If you start offering credit card processing fees like what we did, just to kind of collect some past due small invoices, that's fine. But what we realize is that customers want to pay more and more and more and more with that.
They don't realize what that costs you, and we want to make sure you realize what that costs you. Build it in somewhere. Yeah, all those little things.
So start out small with that, and make sure you're charging for that right away. Because if not, you're gonna grow to be a $1 million, $2 million business, and then you're gonna end up having $20,000 a year or whatever on credit card processing.
So you brought that up because you said processes and procedures, and I think that's really true. A lot of companies, when they're small, maybe it's 1, 2, 3-man show, and they think, well, we just do it this way. We don't have a process. You do have a process, whether you realize it or not. And the more you can sit back and say, does this process make sense? Are we entering things 3 and 4 times? Are we handling the same information over and over again? It's easy to think that's for a bigger company, but I'll tell you right now, it's a million times easier to get that process in place when you're a little company than try to back into it when you're a bigger company.
Well, and then the last thing I wanted to mention real quick, because we could talk about all types of things, but whether you're a 2 or 3-man company, more than likely at some point in time when you're ready to stop doing this, whether it be to retire or whatever, your business is going to have some sort of value to somebody. Right. And so if you end up selling your business, and if you have these processes and procedures in place from
passing it along.
But if you have these in place from the get-go, it's going to be so much more valuable to that potential investor or buyer, or maybe you pass it down to a family member.
Or worst case scenario, you can't make it to work tomorrow. Can somebody pick up the business and run with it?
Love it. All right.
Okay.
We'll see
Not
you guys.
to end on a bad note, but the good news is you can do something about it now.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you. Bye.